Hello, everybody. Welcome to Module 4. I can't believe we're already at Module 4. So this week in Module 4, I want to talk about what you're going to be doing and a little things ahead. And then I want to teach and give you a little bit more information. So in Chapter 4, Module 4, I'm going to share my screen and to show you what we're going to be doing this week. So this week you have 2 assignments, not real major assignments. That's because I want to give you time to work on the assignment for Module 5, which is a larger assignment. So you have 2 assignments. The first one is the discussion post. Your discussion post, what you need to do, you need to use this week's discussion post to discuss what reading language arts lesson you're going to be teaching in Module 5. This will give you the opportunity to talk to your peers, maybe get some feedback. So share your reading language arts lesson, share what lesson plan you're going to do, the instructional strategies that you're going to do. Make sure you include your grade level and state standards for that particular lesson. Okay, that's your discussion post. And then you're going to do like what we normally do every chapter. You're going to write your summary and reflection. So write a summary and reflection for for Module 4, which is Chapter 4 of your textbook. That's the 2 assignments. So not a real hard week this week in relation to amount of work. But in Module 4, sorry, I keep on saying chapters. In Module 5, just in preparation, don't forget, this is when you are going to do a video recording of yourself teaching. So this is when you need to go teach in a classroom, a language arts lesson. You're going to video record yourself teaching that lesson. You're going to review the videotape several times. You're going to write a paper on what was good about the lesson, what you could have done better. If you could reteach a lesson, what we do differently. You're going to write a synopsis of your lesson and reflect on what you learned by observing yourself. So the 3 parts are the summary of the lesson, the reflection of your teaching, including research to support best practices. It is an APA, and then the lesson plan that you developed for that. Now, I have given you guys options if some of you are in a situation where you cannot teach in a classroom, then you have 2 alternative assignments. So I want you to make sure that you go. So the alternative assignments is I have one option for homeschooling parents. And then I have one where you can video if you're not a homeschooling parent, but there's no school that you can teach in. Then the other option is for you to video record yourself teaching in a language arts. You video yourself teaching. They're not going to be students, but you're going to pretend that there are. Review the lesson. And again, you're going to write a paper on what was awesome, what could have done better. And so for those of you that maybe are going to videotape it, but you don't have kids around, you're going to include a summary of your lesson, reflection of your lesson plan, and I want to see your video. Okay, so I want to see you because you're not really getting an audience, so I'm going to be your audience. If you're a homeschooling parent and you want to do that one, then you're going to, what I want you to do is, so it's a little bit different. Instead of doing one lesson, I want you to take your child through the writing process. And so you're going to design a series of mini lessons to take them through pre-writing, planning and outlining, drafting, revising, editing, and sharing. And so you'll have paragraphs, mini lessons for each of those. And then you should record yourself teaching one of the mini lessons. So if homeschooling parents, your 6 parts are the 6 mini lessons, going through the writing process, a reflection of your teaching, your lesson plan, which is going to be those mini lessons, and your video. Okay. So you have some options there for number 5. So that kind of includes what we're doing for Module 4. And then coming forward with Module 5, you have the bigger assignment where you're video recording yourself teaching. So now what I'd like to do is I want to talk to you a little bit about this chapter or module. So Module 4 is also Chapter 4, which we're talking about oral language, listening, and talking. And this is such an important chapter because I think sometimes we forget that a part of language arts is the ability to listen and the ability to comprehend. So one of the things that it talked about in the chapter is that there are different kinds of listening, and it's important that we recognize that. We have discriminative listening. That is the ability to distinguish between sounds. So you have some kids that if you said the word sat, do they understand that that's a s-at? That has to do with phonemic awareness, rhyming, alliterations, tongue twisters, and so forth. So can they discriminate between sounds? Then we have aesthetic listening. That's listening for pleasure, listening to stories and poems and videos, or those kids that aesthetically like to listen in learning centers. They like to talk. They like to have these grand conversations. They do plays and so forth. Then we have afferent, and I had to look up how to pronounce that. I think that's correct. And that's listening to understand a message. So this would be if you are listening to oral reports or informational videos. So the ability to listen and understand the message. And then we lastly have critical listening. This is the ability to listen to debates and commercials and be able to know, is this a persuasive argument, to evaluate things. So there are different kinds of listening, and we can't just assume that kids can listen, right? We have to teach them just like we teach anything else. So I wanted to share a strategy that I use often, and it is called slant. And so I'm going to play this for you. And what you're going to see is this is a strategy that you can teach listening by using the acronym SLANT. I've used this one as a teacher, as a class, as a principal, and currently I work with Kids Club, and we have about 100 kids every Tuesday after school, and this is what we use because we're trying to teach kids what does listening look like. And so this is something you might want to implement in your own classroom. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. I hope this is maybe something that you might be able to implement in your own classroom because it really tells kids, a lot of times we'll say you need to listen. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? And this is important. This is a great way to really be specific and explicit and teach kids what it means to listen and what it looks like and what you're going to be looking like. So we talked a little bit about the types of listening, and that's important. I wanted to share with you guys also the Florida Best Standards for Speaking and Listening. I'm sorry, the Common Core Standards. These are the Common Core Standards. Florida has them also. I'm going to use the Common Core because that's what most of us use. But I would encourage you to go to your state standards and find out the speaking and listening standards. So we're going to start with kindergarten, and I can see kindergartners have that comprehension, that listening, and then the presentation, which is the production. So kindergartners need to be able to follow agreed upon rules for discussion, continue a conversation through multiple exchanges, confirm understanding of a text. So we know that in kindergarten, it's a lot of listening comprehension, ask and answer questions to get information. They need to be able to describe familiar places, events, and prompting, add drawings or visual displays, speak audibly, and express thoughts, feelings, and ideas clearly. Going to skip over to third grade, I'm just going down. And now we can see that at third grade, what should students do? Come to discussions prepared, having read or studied the material. Follow upon agreed discussion formats. Ask questions. Explain their ideas. Presentation, they need to be able to report on a topic. Create audio recordings. Speak in complete sentences. This goes all the way down to 11th and 12th grade, where students are going to be doing things like coming to discussions prepared, researched, working with peers to promote civil democratic discussions. It sounds like a lot of people in the United States need these speaking and listening. Propel conversations by posing and responding to questions. So I just wanted you to see this, to know that there are speaking and listening standards that you should be teaching. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much I have to teach. You're just adding something else. Well, it is important. So turn that off. So this chapter again is about speaking, about listening and presentation of ideas. A great way that two good strategies that you can use to help with listening and talking. One is an interactive read aloud. Now, the issue is many times teachers do a read aloud, but not an interactive read aloud. An interactive read aloud is when you are stopping as you're reading and allowing the students to turn and talk about what you're doing. You're not just reading the text through. Now, are there times that you just need to read a text? Yeah, there are times. But if you're trying to teach listening, if you're trying to teach a certain comprehension skill or different kinds of skills, as you do that interactive read aloud, you should be stopping, doing think alouds, and allowing students to turn and talk about whatever it is that you're teaching. So I want to share an article, and I will post this. And this article is called Using Turn and Talk to Develop Language. And so this just talks about having kids turn and talk, and it gives you the research behind it, what the research says. And so what we know is it's important that students have the opportunity to talk to each other, and it's important that you are involved in those conversations. So if we're having kids discussing in groups, this is not a time that we're on our computer or on our phone. This is a time that we should be with the kids listening to those conversations. And so I will be posting this article. It talks about being very specific when kids are talking, giving them rules of practice, emphasizing precise language. During a turn and talk, we're wanting to model language, and we're going to have even a wrap up, right? But we have to, I've probably observed literally hundreds and hundreds of teachers in my career. And one of the things that I have seen is the best teachers allow engagement, allow constructive talk, not just any talk. Kids are going to talk. So give them meaningful conversations. You direct that conversation so that they can talk about meaningful things related to what you're teaching. Okay. So I'll be sharing that article. I'll stop there. Another way that you can develop talk is through incidental conversations. So those of you that teach really small kids, you know that as kids are working in a center, you can go to them, you can talk to them. I did a professional development with all the aides in my school where I was the principal. I had a lot of aides in all my preschool classes, all my special education classes, and all of my kindergarten classes. Yes, we were very lucky that we had aides in kindergarten and pre-K. And one of the things that I talked to them about, what I noticed is, let's say at recess, I noticed that the kids were playing and all the teachers were in a little huddle on their phones. So what I talked to the aides about is I said, what I want you to do is don't be on your phone. I want you to be engaging with kids in conversations. So even if you're pushing a child on a swing, we're going to say, you're going up and down, up and down. You have all of these conversations that you're having with kids. During lunch, this is a great time that you can have conversations, this incidental teaching with kids. During center time, if you have blocks, can you give me the red block? Can you give me the blue block? What about the green block? Then you can have kids put the blocks. I want you to put this block on top of this block. It's all incidental teaching, but it's very important that we do that. So, another thing that you can do for to promote conversations is having book talks. I would highly recommend this. So as kids are speaking and as they're reading a book, give them opportunity to share their book, to talk about their book. Have oral presentations, but if you do an oral presentation, give them specific criteria for what you're looking for in those conversations. And so, kind of to summarize, chapter 4 in module 4 is speaking and listening. But just like everything else we teach, we need to be explicit, showing kids what listening looks like, explaining to them how we should be presenting information and the expectations for those things. So I hope that you will kind of look at speaking and listening in a different way and think about some strategies that you can use in your classroom. For module 4, only 2 assignments. You have a discussion post, which you're going to talk about what you're going to teach in module 5. And then your second is your summary and reflection on the chapter. Have a great day, and I look forward to reading your responses and what you're going to be teaching in module 5.